Hi, this is Zak Mir with a special video looking at the charting position of the best rises of the year to date amongst the FTSE 350 stocks. So basically, the blue chip sweep. Starting off with Airtel Africa, which has been in a rising trend channel since the turn of the year. Top of the channel currently heading towards the £2.40 zone. I suppose you could argue it's a little bit more shallow than I've drawn there, but basically it's still 240 potential target there by the end of next month, while we remain above recent support around the 206 level. What you can see looking historically, especially in the recent past, is that we've had one or two decent opportunities in terms of RSI 50 rebounds. There was a decent one there back at the end of December, just before Christmas. Another one there during February, and two or three actually during July. In fact, three during July, which probably would have given you an entry point somewhere in the 170, 180 zone, and obviously that has gone well. The current situations, we're hoping that we can hold the floor of the channel, hold the 50-day moving average, which is currently £1.93, but basically recent support around 205, ahead of a move to 240 potentially by the end of September. On to Babcock, and here the chart is, as you might expect, given the predominance of the military-industrial complex on both sides of the Atlantic. Here you can see that the shares have, or are currently have bounced and are bouncing off the floor of that rising trend channel there from back in November. Interesting the way that just last week there was a serious bounce there, with the shares opening at the low, closing at the high of the day on the 20th. And there we on Wednesday, basically looking for an end of day close through the 50-day moving average, which is the first target, to give us a resumption of the big breakout that shares have had, and a potential target as high as £13.75 by the end of the year, although one fears of what might actually cause a move up that quickly. On the downside, hoping that recent support towards 940 will be the limit of what we see, but ideally we stay above 960 in the floor of that rising trend channel. If you are cautious in terms of anticipating a move towards the 50-day line, you wait for the RSI to get back above neutral 50 versus 48 at the moment. On to BAE Systems, which I suppose most people looking at the chart, at least from January to May, would be kicking themselves that they weren't involved. Current situation is that these shares are trying to find a floor. The guess is that the floor of the channel there was hit on the 20th. It's a bit similar to Babcock. The low then around £16.75, and we've actually had quite a bounce from there. Hoping that the initial resistance here will be, or the initial target will be up to £18.44, or 39 in fact, to be precise, and waiting for the RSI to get back above neutral 50 versus 45 at the moment. Probably one would, in a way, be looking for any potential bounces towards the £17 level first, rather than a rally towards the 50-day line. But we're a bit in betwixt and between on that situation at the moment. Perhaps less complex is BT Group, which has obviously had a stonking year. There's a periodic rumours of M&A here, but so far obviously it hasn't happened, and probably given the state of the pension fund, it probably will never happen. But a rising trend channel there from January, floor of the channel there around 208, and above that looking for the top of the channel 240 plus by the end of the year, and perhaps even by the end of October at the current rate of progress. You can see that the RSI has remained above neutral 50 since the middle of May, which is an extended period, and support points coming in above a rising 50-day line as well. So still looking very strong indeed. On to BATS, British American Tobacco, and here it would appear that SIN stock, or the SIN stocks are doing rather well at the moment. Top of the channel here, up towards £50, which I suppose would be a decent end of year target. Recent support towards £41. Ideally, we stay above the floor of the channel there around £42, but probably have to allow for £41 ahead of a move to £50 by the end of this year. Chemring is next, and here the situation is that we are attempting to find support at the floor of the channel once again. During the middle of the week, there was a probe, a bear trap rebound bounce as well, so around the £5.20 mark. Looking for the shares to break the 50-day moving average at £5.54. Above that, we could resume the uptrend and the rising trend channel top could be the target there towards £6.90, maybe by the end of this year. Moving on to Close Brothers, where one probably might not have thought a merchant bank would be one of the top risers of the year, but we've got a rising trend channel there from February, top of the channel there, £5.80. And we're looking for that while we remain above the old July resistance around the £4.65 level and recent support around 460. So above 460, basically looking for the top of the channel there, 570 plus by the end of October. The next situation is a mining situation, which obviously the whole space has done rather well this year. You can see that Endeavour has recently had decent support at and around the 50-day line. That's currently around 23.30. Above that, we're looking at the top of the channel there as high as £28.60 by the end of October. A few decent RSI 50 bounces since the end of last month, giving us a bit more confidence of the prospects of the stock. Onto Fresnillo, which has been one of the best risers of the year. Still could be a bit more gas in the tank. We're finding new support above old resistance. The old resistance around £15.70, new support around £16.10. Top of the channel there from October towards £18.70, and we're looking for that by the end of October, while we remain on the right side of the £15.70 zone. Moving along to one of the most boring stocks in the world, which is probably an explanation as to why it's doing so well. You can see from the description of the company that it develops animal genetics for agricultural purposes. It sounds absolutely fantastic. Here you can see that rising trend channel there, big breakout with a gap higher back in April, and we've basically been up and away ever since. A bit of a bear trap, back gap reversal there. Current situation is above initial August resistance around £25.50. We're looking for the top of the channel here as high as £32 by the end of October. And I suppose that also makes for a reasonable end of year target as well. On to Ithaca, and here you can see that we've been actually charting this of late. Shares already hit the initial target, the top of that broadening triangle there from May 2024 at £1.90. Above that, we're looking for up to £2.60, perhaps as soon as the end of next month, given the way the shares are rising at the moment. And that's a very impressive rise indeed. In fact, it's a bear trap island reversal at the highs, which tends to be one of the strongest setups around. So let's see if we can stay on the right side of £2 and head up to £2.60. The next situation is one which has also done rather well of late, and it is Jupiter here, rising trend channel there after the bear trap rebound from below March support around the 72 pence level. Current situation is we're looking for up to £1.60 by the end of next month, which is the top of that rising trend channel from back in February. The next situation is Lloyds, and here the bank seems to be doing rather well, presumably at its customers' expense. Here we've got a rising trend channel, top of the channel there up to 92 pence, which we're looking for perhaps by the end of September. Ideally, we stay above recent support at 80, so above 80, looking for 92 on Lloyds. But I suppose the main thing here is that we broke above the main 60 to 65 pence resistance zone in the spring and have not really looked back. Another company which is obviously doing rather well and has extreme pricing power is Prudential. Here you can see that we've got a rising trend channel there from back in December, top of the channel there, up to £11.20. We're looking for that by the end of October, at least while we stay above the floor of the channel there. And initial August resistance around £9.70. The 50-day line there, £9.36, I suppose, a trailing stop as we await further upside. Rolls-Royce is next, and here the situation is that we gapped up at the turn of the month. We've got to the floor of the gap there and the 50-day line towards £10. But at least while we're above £10, looking for up to £12.50 the top of that rising trend channel from November, and hoping to get to that destination by the end of the year. RSI just bounced just below the neutral 50 level, so hopefully we're ready to start a new leg to the upside. Moving on to Serco, which was obviously done rather well from the whole migrant asylum seeker debacle. See the shares through the roof, and the market cap now approaching around 2.3 billion, which is obviously very nice. We hit our previous target there at £2.20. Next level up to £2.40, which we're looking for by the end of next month, barring any change in the migrant hotel asylum seeker services situation in this country. On to final stock, which is St James's Place, which has had one or two issues in the recent past, but seems to have shaken them off within that rising trend channel from back in the summer of 24. You can see that obviously the beginning of the early part of last year was not a good time for the company at £4, but now we've tripled the share price and looking for 14 pounds rather, as soon as the end of next month. Ideally, we stay above recent support towards the £12.80 level, and the RSI remains above neutral 50. That's it for me today. More updates in the more usual fashion during the week.